Peter Pannke, the German gentleman, but I have heard, and he will confirm, that he lived the whole 1 year in Seven Sharif in a small hut. Is that right?
That's not how I would put it, but maybe, for the sense of introduction, if I may add something to
Please,
that.
please.
You see, of course, if you look at biographies, you see all the academic merits and so on, what the guy has done and so forth. And of course, in a course of a long life, there has been a lot. But for the sense of introducing me here, I think it would suffice to say that I came to Pakistan for the first time 45 years ago, which is 69, and I've spent a couple of years, if you take it all together. I can't count the times I've come to this country, and so whether I lived in a small hut or not, I think that's too romantic. Actually, if you want to know something about that, is that I started my stay in Karachi. I lived on the beach of Paradise Point for a couple of weeks in the winter of 69, 70. And then I met a guy there, a fisherman, and he had a strange kind of bangle. So I asked the guy, what's that? And he said, oh, you don't know, that comes from a place where people sing and dance. And that's somewhere where in the countryside. And since I was a musician and storyteller myself at the time, I thought that's where I have to go. And it looked like it's kind of a holy place or something, it has this. So I decided to walk there, and that's what I did. And then I stayed in Sevan for maybe 6 months. And then I went also to some other places, various kind of places. So I think at that time I had a very thorough introduction into Pakistan society.
Well, you will be amazed to see when you see this book. It's available at the Oxford University Press bookshop, and it's recently published. The very good thing about this book is the Peter's, from Sohrab Fakir to Shah's Fakirs to Sachal's Fakirs to, all these places. Not only the content, but also the photographs, the wonderful photographs. You can see the Sohrab Fakir's photograph in this. And where was your video?
Sorry?
You want to show a video also, right?
I don't know if we have the time.
No, we have a time.
Okay.
We have a time. Don't worry.
Well, rather, then the screen is also positioned like by the side of the stage. It may be difficult to view that. Let me say some things about the book before that. See, this book is less than a book and more than a book at the same time, because it's not just words, but it's also pictures, and most of all, it's also music, because it has 2 full CDs of music with 21 songs from all over the, let's say, up and down the Indus. And moreover, it's not an academic write-up, it's not an ethnographic or musicological description. It's really something else, and I'm really thrilled that Oxford took it. Amina Saeed was so happy about that, so she wanted to publish that. And because it's an attempt to share something which is a rare moment in life. I think probably everyone has experienced something where you see something for the first time, the joy of discovering something which makes you completely happy. Let's compare it to falling in love. You see something and you're like, your whole being is completely thrilled. And that's the joy I want to share with people, rather than describing, some people or some events or something like that, not to speak of music because it's very tricky to speak about music, but I want to share something which I discovered for the first time in '69 when I was just about 20, and I had a very fresh mind, I had not...
I was 1 year old at that time.
Right, yes. So that means, well, you have been in Pakistan before me, but I guess there are some people in the room who only came after me. So I saw something at that time which I tried to transmit in that book. And originally the book, well, what happened when 50 years of Pakistan came up, the Germans, the main venue, the House of World Cultures, they asked me to put together a festival of Pakistani music. So that was a nice invitation for me to go to Pakistan and really travel up and down the whole place and see who are the interesting musicians here. And I brought about 100 Pakistani musicians to Berlin, and on purpose, now wait before you clap, on purpose what I did not do was to bring Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, whom I knew very well and who was kind of a friend of mine, and Abida Parveen, and the usual suspects.
Abida Parveen, he means.
Because these people had been exposed so much already, and I wanted people to know that something is existing in this country where people over there have not the slightest idea of what that is. So I made it a point to bring people whom nobody had ever seen before, like the fakirs of Shah Latif. It's the first time they came out of the country and all that. And so that was, and when that festival was happening, I was approached by a photographer, and he said, these guys are so incredible that I want to go there and with you and photograph them. So I went with him. We had another trip, and I also was recording offhand. I'm an experienced, I lived many years by doing radio shows, and so that's my métier. So I did that, and not in studios, but really offhand in the actual situation. But now, you see, that was '97, and I think you're aware that since '97, the situation in that particular field, not only, all over Pakistan, but also in the, let's say, in the Sufi field, has changed a lot. So one thing is time, of course. Most of the people I'm portraying here, like Surab Fakir and Alan Fakir and Patane Khan and lots of others, have died in between. And the shrines where I've been, some of them have been bombed. Sawarsaki Sultan has been bombed, and Gandhi Shakar has been bombed, and Sevan has not yet been bombed, and hopefully, inshallah, never will. And Shah Latif, anyway, never will be bombed, and all that. But it has changed to a degree where I thought that to publish a book now in Pakistan, so many years, 15 years after that, it would really require a new book because going to the places again and shooting them and seeing them and exploring them, what is left of the Sufis. So my introduction to this book is that the book starts with a question, and the question is, where have all the Sufis gone?
It's a very tricky question, and I think the one thing about this book is, which is very alarming, and what is saying that after '97, much transformation has been going on in Pakistan, that the places, the Sufi places, our values actually changing. That's what he sees as a foreigner. Why you think that all Sufis are disappearing?
Well, you see, if the shrines are bombed and the people are dying out, I mean that's an obvious observation, and of course you can see that there is also. Since then, much has been going on. You have created a Sufi soap, and you have created a Sufi banaspati, and you have created Sufi
Sufis.
rock, and Janoon came up, and all that. And all this has, of course, a value. And there is Sufi soul and Sufi trance and all that. But what I wanted to say that actually I told Amina Sayed that I rather do a new book. So there were some Pakistani friends who said, look, at that time when you were there, you have seen something which most of us have not seen and most of us have not known. We have never seen these people that disappeared. Now really give the book to us as it was, because it's really we need to memorize what has been happening here, and you are a witness of that. So the book is a witness, but mainly it's a witness of joy. At the same time, if I'm allowed to speak
Please.
on, you see what my reflection about the present situation is that, you see, if I'm asking my Pakistani friends, what do you think what actually makes Sufi music in Pakistan stand out from other parts of the world? Because, as you know, I mean, the word Sufi is a very ambiguous term. It would need a lot of discussion, but let's skip that. But let's say from Morocco in the west to Malaysia in the east, and maybe even now in the States and Europe, you have Sufi music. But so my Pakistani friends, they said, well, we have all the shrines and we have all these saints and Shalatif and so on, and Lai Shabazz Kalandar Baba and Dada Ganj Baksh and. So that's very right. But on the other hand, I think there is something really very much outstanding in the culture in the Indus Valley. Because what I see that in the Indus Valley has been a melting pot of cultures and religions since several thousand years at least, and before that it's just that we don't remember for some strange reason. But since we can think, it's been a place where people have come from all directions, from the West, the Iranians and the Arabs, and then the Brits, although they came in from the East, taking a diversion through India. But from the East, you have the Indians and all these people, and you have people coming down from Central Asia to the valley, and you have the Africans coming overseas, from East Africa. So it's been an area in the world which has been one of maybe the melting pot of cultures. It's been where people really came together, and the Indus is the backbone of that. So now, as I see it, what developed here as what we call a Sufi culture now is something that people here have worked out over many centuries, if not millenniums. They have worked out a way how human beings can deal with each other in a loving, respectful way. Because there's always a possibility of conflict and war and all that. And so what we call Sufism, I don't like the word at all, but we call that actually is the answer to the possibility to, if we don't want to go in conflict with each other, there are conflicts, but we work it out because we recognize each other in spite of differences in gender, religion, caste, color, race, and so on. We can find a way how we really appreciate to live together. So, and that's been also happening in other places, but the Indus Valley, this place where you are living, is the focus, you know, it's a worldwide focus where this exercise has been going on, and this culture was the answer to that. Now, at the moment where you see that we observe, you know, the present difficulties, it's I've been listening like you to the Afghani discussion yesterday and so on. So of course, you know, people discuss about political steps which must be taken, and you know how to fortify the borders and all that. And of course, I can follow that. But the thing is that, you know, actually, I think. The Pakistan, I mean, I thought that from the beginning really has a history of absorbing everything. And actually at that time in the 60s, all the people who traveled to India were going through Pakistan and they were having impressions. And at that time, I mean, you were 1 year old, but Pakistan was a swinging, Karachi was a swinging city, which it still is in a way, but in a changed way.
Yeah, Peter, you very rightly mentioned about the tricky situation here in Pakistan where there is some kind of transformation going on and our values, our Sufi values are being targeted. I know that it's a bit global, you know, phenomenon. It could be some other places also. Do you mind if we take some questions from the audience?
I want to finish my thought. It will just be a few more sentences. So what I say to that situation is that now that's something which is happening in the Indus Valley. Whatever the country may be called, it had different names before, and it will most probably also have other names after that. So we're just at one point in history. But the thing now is, if in a way it's your responsibility to take care of your culture, and if you don't do that, you have to realize that the loss is not only a loss of Pakistan, but there is a loss of world culture, because that has been an example, what has been happening here, of really, you know, respecting, absorbing other cultures. And the main problem we have in the world is, you know, of religions and cultures really respecting each other. So I say, you know, rather than fortifying the borders, my idea, my request would be that Pakistan sets itself up as a country which really invites all the peace-loving people of the world and take it in your culture, because in the end, I think the number of peace-loving people in the world outnumber the number of terrorists. So, you know, and that will happen only on a level where you are standing up as a people. I mean, that's obvious, politicians won't do that, but as long as you think that's just a literary history, or you translate some verses of some Sufi poets, that makes it history, you know. And okay, I stop here. That's a kind of appeal I had to make.
No, I think it's, you very rightly pointed out, and I'm thinking maybe you, as a bird's eye view, you know better than us what is going on, because as they say, boiled frog phenomena, we are in the system and we understand that there is something going wrong, but we might not be able to you know, understand the way you have understood it, because you have seen this world in 60s, and then, you know, you kept on seeing it, and now we definitely see that our values are at risk. Can we take some, anybody wants to have a question? Yes, please.
I'm Zulfikar Halipoto. It's good to hear you about your book and experiences. In recent times, we have a very popular narratives, and you also mentioned in your talk about this global phenomena of extremism and fundamentalism. So we have a very popular narrative that perhaps this Sufism, mystic teachings, or this kind of activities, music, literature, can be a structural and philosophical barrier to counter fundamentalism. So while working in Sindh, meeting a lot of popular artists and doing research on this Sufi and other mystic thoughts, what is your personal feelings? Is that narrative true that we have a potential to really counter this global phenomena while having Sufism and
Stopping
mystic teachings on
fundamentalism.
board?
You see, I would be a little wary of that idea because, you know, if you think that you can use Sufism as a barrier to something and use it in a political way to birth things, I think you have misunderstood the whole exercise of Sufi, because it's not anything which, I mean, as soon as it's used in a political way, it loses, I mean, it's not that what it's supposed to be anymore. Because the only thing which will help you or will help people or will help that situation is really the, let's say, the spiritual strength of the people involved. So the only thing I think what you can do, or what I would say to myself, what I can do, is to really go to the well of spiritual strength. And of course, it's nice to promote Sufi music. It's good, but it also has a danger that, you know, Sufi has been now really transformed into a label, you know. It's like a commodity on the market, but that's not new, you know. I mean, if you look into Dada Ganj Baksh, Ali bin Hujwiri's Kashf al-Majub, written in 1175 in Lahore, what he says, I mean, Sufi is a rather new word, so he says Tazawwuf used to be a reality without a name behind, and now it has become a name without a reality behind it. So he was discussing that phenomenon already in 900 years ago. So I think if we think in a political way that we have to use this or that to achieve this or that's not the point, because what really Sufism is about, how you relate to life and death. And that's not political, you know.
I think what he means to say is when there is a phase missing. You know, the Sufism is just not saying and dressing up or, you know, singing, unless you don't have the phase, that spiritual heart-to-heart teaching. You cannot. It cannot be Sufism. It could be something, some cult or something else. Any other question, please?
Thank you. My name is Abdullah Bangi. And I must compliment the author for a wonderful trip that he mentions. To me, it looks as if there is a deep conviction right in the soul of the author, because the hardships, the time, contrasting cultures, and to survive in that, not only to live, but to survive, and then to be productive, really needs some depth of love. My question to you, sir, is this: where did you get the seed of Sufism in your soul? Where and who was responsible for it? Thank you.
What was your inspiration? He's asking.
What was my what?
Inspiration. I mean, where did you get the seed of that Sufi longing?
Sir,
in you?
you know, how can I show you my soul, right? It's not really visible, but I think it reflects in my work, because I'm basically a singer and a storyteller. So what I do is try to have a soulful conversation or a soulful contact but that's happening in all kinds of ways, you know. It's not really done by having the maximum public exposure or something. So that's, I don't know if I've answered that question.
No, you did. Because sometimes you never know. All, yeah.
What kind of what? You see, actually, if you ask me that question, you know, there is a basic thing which is a human voice, and it's based on breath. And I don't see music, or I don't see sound or song as something which falls apart in different compartments. I think it's really a fallacy to think about. I mean, if you want to do a musicological description, you can say, okay, this is Indian music, and this is Western music, or this is, you know, whatever. But actually, if you go down to the matter, you know, I've been for 40 years, traveled all over the world, and I've met, and wherever I went, I always make contact with the musicians. And so, you know, my experience is that musicians can communicate and understand each other, and they wouldn't ask you the question that, what kind of music are you doing, and you know, and because what you want to find is a language where you can communicate. And it's not that you want to tell the guy, I speak Chinese, you speak French, you know? It's like that. So music is a very, very deep phenomenon, and its roots go deeper than, you know, where you separate it in kind of. So, but I can say, I mean, the backbone of my personal creation is that I studied for many, many decades Dhrupat, classical Indian music, classical Indian singing, which is kind of a very good foundation. But I do rock.
Peter,
I mean, if you want to know rock, pop, whatever, you have it.
Yeah, it's all about melody. Any other question? Yeah, you.
In Germany, you must be inspired of Hitler, and just a decade before it was World War. How did you inspire from a Sufi saint, and how did you came Pakistan?
I didn't really get the question, but maybe you can.
Well, she is saying that those walls in Berlin, and then Hitler, and all this legacy of war and this and that. What I understand is she's asking how people get inspired and go here and there and try to find the world treasure in terms of Sufism and music.
You see, like if you bring up Hitler, you see that that's not so long ago. And what happened to Germany in those years when Hitler was in power was that Germany completely lost its heritage. You know, before there was a heritage of German folk songs and so on. And it was rich in its way, but it was totally misused and twisted by those fascists. And that was again a case where they used the music. They thought we used the romantic idea of Germany to subvert the people and, you know, reach their deep emotions and make them happy. And that's also why I'm so suspicious of just using music for a purpose. If you think in these terms, you will never reach that. So that's just one observation. So the reason why I came here was in a way to look for something which we had sort of forgotten. It's a loss of memory. And actually, if you go to the Oriental countries, you can trace. You really, I think I came to Pakistan, for instance, to refresh my memory and make contact with something which was also my treasure or my memory long ago, because basically I would say Europe, you know, in my view, is not a continent of its own. If you look at the map, you see there is a landmass which is called Asia, and you have a southeastern subcontinent, and I would say you have a northwestern subcontinent which calls itself Europe and is sort of very proud, you know, to have its...
Oh, okay.
Sir, you have written a very good book about saints and singers, but it is more photographic than descriptive. You are a very well-known international figure in music, a composer, a writer, and you have also learned classical music of Indo-Pakistan. Are you thinking of writing a descriptive book about the Sufi music?
And we have to conclude this session. I wish we had some more time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Peter Pannke's
This,
book.
yeah.
Peter's book is available at the Oxford Bookshop for any of you who'd like to go and purchase.
It's a wonderful
He will
book,
also
wonderful
sign the book
photographs
for you.
and wonderful narrative and descriptions of Pakistan that we are losing, ladies and gentlemen. The last word is, I want to mention that somehow Germany and Pakistan, Germans have always been inspired of Pakistan. Anne-Marie Schimmel, Dr. Ernest Tromp, Peter, and there are many more.